Hello, I'm Alan Fowler from Key West Criminal Defense, where we believe that one bad mistake or wrongful arrest shouldn't ruin the rest of your life. Now, if you have a loved one who's been arrested at their first appearance, the judge may have issued a bond or set a bond. That's another phrase that is commonly used for the person's release, right? So you may have heard that your loved one was in jail. You contacted the jail, you may have spoken to a bondsman, more on that in a moment, and either way, you may have learned that they have a bond set for their release. So what does that mean? Well, at the first appearance, the judge makes a decision on whether or not the arrestee should be released, and if so, should there be any conditions upon their release. The Florida Constitution says that everyone who is arrested is presumed to have the right to be released from jail under reasonable restrictions or reasonable conditions. Now, in most instances, the phrase reasonable conditions refers to a bond. Now, you don't hear the term bond used very often by the media when they speak about people who have committed crimes and been arrested. They typically speak about the term bail. For purposes of this video, you can equate the term bond and bail. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's generally the same idea. And that idea being that the judge has ruled that the person who's been arrested can be released so long as the person posts a bond. So first off, what does that mean, or why is the arrestee required to post a bond to begin with? Well, a bond is a monetary amount. It could be $10,000, could be $100,000, could be $1 million, right? But it's going to be some amount. The reason for that is the court system wants criminal defendants to participate in the process, right? They want the criminal defendant, the criminal defendant has been accused of a crime. The judge wants the criminal defendant to attend court, to engage an attorney, to mount a defense, not just disappear, right? The idea is that it is in the interest of justice, societal justice, if we have this platform or forum, meaning the court, the judge, and the court, and the prosecutor, and the defense, so that the allegations from the government can be heard and presented against the defendant who has the opportunity to defend himself or herself. So the judge wants to make sure that the defendant is going to participate, right? Is going to show up, isn't going to move to Costa Rica or Korea or something and disappear, right? And the way the judges assure themselves that the defendant will participate is by requiring the defendant to post a bond, right? To have money in the game, so to speak, right? The idea is if you're financially obligated, right, financially connected to this criminal proceeding, then you're going to be dissuaded from skipping town or disappearing and just putting your head in the sand, right? So to post a bond means to deposit money with the clerk of the court or to utilize the services of a bondsman. But before I get to that, the basic idea is to literally give money to the clerk of the court that's maintained in something akin to a savings account. And once the case is over, regardless of the outcome, even if you're found guilty and go to prison for the rest of your life, regardless of the outcome, the money would be returned to the defendant, right? If you ever followed criminal proceedings where celebrities like professional athletes or actors get arrested and have a criminal proceeding, oftentimes their bond is really high. It might be like $1 million or $10 million, right? Well, the reason for that is that the judge is making a determination about the severity of the offense that the defendant is accused of doing, like murder or DUI or possession of marijuana, right? How severe is the offense? The criminal history of the defendant, right, is, they tend to believe that if someone has a lengthy criminal history and is facing more severe punishment, they might be more inclined to flee. And then also whether the defendant has the means and the opportunity to flee the country or disappear, right? So for that reason, when someone like a movie star is accused of murder, let's say, that's a very severe offense, literally the most severe offense that we have in state court. It might be that person's first time being arrested, so they're a first-time offender, but certainly a big movie star like Brad Pitt or Tom Hanks has the means, meaning the money and the opportunity to leave the country and never return. We may know where they are because they're celebrities and they're worldwide known, but they might go to a country where they can't be extradited, right? So the point is that the judge makes a determination on what the bond should be based on that criteria, and then normally the defendant is required to deposit that amount of money with the clerk of the court. And when they do, they are released from jail. It's that simple. It may not seem simple, but it's as simple as just depositing money with the clerk of the court. Here's the caveat, and this is where bondsmen come in. Most people don't have the money to bond themselves out, particularly in this county. I find that in Monroe County, the bonds tend to be high compared to other more populated counties like Miami-Dade and Pinellas and Orange. And if you're from those counties, you may look at the bond that your loved one has and be surprised at how high it is. But it's not uncommon for judges to set bonds of $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, several hundred thousand, right? And naturally, most people don't have that kind of money sitting in a checking account or a savings account ready to be handed over to the clerk for some unknown period of time, right? And again, you get the money back, but if you don't have the money to begin with, then that doesn't help. So this is where bondsmen come in. So a bondsman is someone who is licensed by the state government to basically vouch for the arrestee, right? It's where they say, you know what, I am vouching that this person is going to hire an attorney or have a public defender, that they're going to be engaged in the process, that they're going to comply with all court obligations, that they're going to show up for court when they're ordered to do so, right? I'm basically vouching that this person is going to do that. That's their role as bondsmen. Generally speaking, bondsmen charge a fee of 10% for that service. So if you have a bond of $100,000, bondsmen, generally speaking, will charge a fee of 10% or $10,000 in order to vouch for you or your loved one to get released from jail. That's how they make money for that service. Now, if they vouch for someone and then that person was to flee the country or otherwise, disappear in the interior of the United States, then the bondsman is on the hook financially to the clerk of the court for the full bond amount. So part of what bondsmen do when someone calls them and says, hey, my brother got arrested and he has a bond, they basically calculate risk and determine what they want to charge the people in order to get someone bonded out, right? If you've got a lengthy history, or if the person who's been arrested, and I should say the person who's been arrested has a lengthy history, or if perhaps they're a resident of another country, and so on, the bondsman may not want to do business with you. Or if they do, they may say, hey, there's a lot of risk here. You might go back to Italy and never come back, or whatever the case may be. And so they may charge 15% or 20%, okay? If you don't like the percentage that you've been quoted, then there's nothing stopping you from calling around. There's plenty of bondsmen out there. I also find that it can be helpful when your bondsman and your attorney have a relationship. We have a relationship with a couple of bondsman services, and the bondsmen know that we are actively communicative with our clients and that we ensure that our clients attend court proceedings when they need to, that they waive their appearance when they are not required to be there in person. And so the bondsmen trust that our clients are not going to skip town, and consequently we find that our bondsmen tend to charge lower fees for our clients. Now, unfortunately, all too often we don't get hired until after someone's already been bonded out. But the point is that if you or a loved one, if you are watching this video, you're probably already released from jail. But if you have a loved one who's been arrested, please contact our office and we can connect you with a bondsman that we trust to take care of you and handle things the right way, and they may offer a competitive rate for what your fee will be. One final note about a bond and being released on a bond. If you are watching this and you've been released on a bond, or your loved one has, it's very important that you do not commit any other criminal infractions. Traffic tickets are fine, that won't impact things. But if you get arrested for something, even if you are innocent, if you're 100% wrongfully accused, just the fact that you've been arrested and that arrest was lawful, the judge in our case, in the Monroe County case, can revoke your bond. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the judge could say, hey, I understand that you posted a $100,000 bond, but I am revoking that, and you are required to surrender yourself to be arrested. And the judge will actually issue an arrest warrant that police officers will be able to see whenever they run your name and license, like during a traffic stop. And if you live in the local area, they may send the deputies to your homes to enforce the warrant. If the judge decides to revoke the bond on your case, typically you don't have a hearing on that. You just find out that you've got a warrant. So if you have been arrested and you've posted a bond, please be extra cautious to not put yourself in a position where you might be accused of a crime, because if you are, you may have that bond revoked. You might be arrested, and here's the real kicker: the judge will set no bond for the rest of the case. And that means you're going to be sitting in jail unless and until your case gets resolved. If you or a loved one are in this position or need any counsel regarding the topic of bonds, please contact your office and we'll be happy to give you a complimentary consultation. Thank you.